Live.
Good evening, good afternoon, good morning, whatever you are. Welcome to another interesting sports battle. I'm the host with the most, Matty G. I'm going to be your lead judge tonight. I'm not alone. First judge with me is going to be Mr. Carmel Mountain himself, Ryan Payne. Ryan, how's it going tonight?
Oh, it's going good. I think I think so far on the Pacific Coast we're still getting used to daylight savings. There's too much traffic out here, but I'm managing.
I don't know about daylight savings time. I'm from Arizona. We don't switch time. Everybody else jumps forward or backwards. We stay the same. And of course, there can't be two of us. There's got to be one more. So, an entire time, he is the villain. Haven, what's cracking, homie?
Hey, what's up, man? Happy to be here with you guys. I've done a couple of these, judging a couple matches, but this is the first time I do a sports one. So, I can't wait to see what these competitors bring to the table.
All right. So, I guess we will get our fighters in the ring first. He is the philosopher, Kevin. Pause. Kevin, this is your first time in this arena. Are you nervous?
A little bit of nerves, yeah. It's not my first debate, though. I went up against a pretty tough competitor my first time. So, yeah. Well, I think I got it.
Well, this man also stepping in the ring, everybody has seen before. He is the commissioner of the choke slam. He is JTH. Sir, I see you're wearing the Ravens. I don't know if that's a good omen or a bad omen. How are you feeling?
What I'm wearing, because it's a JTH omen, which means I'm going to stink. Hopefully I'll just put on a good show, because, somebody's gear's got to ultimately fold and flop, and so it might as well just be me.
Okay, then. I don't know how to respond to that. So I guess we'll jump right in. It's a first to three. We have 4 prep questions, and I have a speed round question ready if need be. Like I said, it's first to 3 points, a 30-second opening, a 5-minute freeform debate, and a 60-second closing. You do have a 1-minute extension for either your opening or your closing. Take it from somebody who this has failed on before. Use them wisely, because you never know when they might bite you in the ass. If you guys, keep the debate back and forth, if need be, I will call timeout, and you guys will have 10 seconds to stop talking and let it be quiet. Time for that will continue on your 5-minute debate. And once I get it 10 seconds of everybody quiet, we will begin. Gentlemen, are we ready?
Ready.
Ooh. Thumbs up from the darkness. Gentlemen, judges, are we ready to listen?
Yep, good to go.
I'm down.
I guess
Ready
not.
to go, brother.
It's like, I guess not. I guess. All right. Mr. Ryan is going to keep time for us. Kevin chose first, so he's going to go first in this one. First question, it comes in auto sports. What is the best Formula One race of the 1990s? Senior philosopher, 90 seconds when you start talking.
The best Formula One race in the 1990s, I chose the 1999 European Grand Prix. This race is also known as the Warsteiner Grand Prix of Europe, but it's colloquially known as the race nobody wanted to win. It's widely considered one of the most eventful and exciting races of 1999, and the entire decade. It was held on 26 September 1999 in Nuremberg, Germany. Of the 66 laps, there were 5 lead changes after 32 laps. So that's a lot of lead changes. And I'll get to why there were a lot of lead changes. This was race number 14 of 16 in the 1999 Formula One World Championships, which it brought out a lot of examples of human raw emotion in sports, and I think that those examples right there make it one of the greatest, if not the greatest, Formula One race in the 90s. And I'll concede the rest of my time.
Okay.
Woohoo! With 5 seconds left on the board. Woo! That may be a good thing. That may be a bad thing. Mr. JTH, tell me about the best Formula One race of the 90s.
So when I think of a good Formula One race, to me it has to have 5 different things. It has to have entertainment value. It has to have insanity. It has to have unpredictability, emotional output, and depending on what kind of racing fan you are, a Cinderella story with a winner that no one really saw coming. And for me, all 5 of those categories fits into my pick, which was the 1998 Belgium Grand Prix. Now, the Belgian Grand Prix is held in a circuit called the Sports Champs, or just Spa for short. It's a very difficult circuit to drive on in perfect weather conditions. You add on to this race in 1998, where this race was held in complete monsoon-like conditions. It was an absolute disaster to actually try to race on, which in result actually resulted in one of the most memorable Grand Prix of all time, not just in the 90s, but just in the history of Formula One in general. The first lap starts, they go off turn 1. There's a massive 11-car pileup that takes place after just one turn of one lap. And it was just total carnage from there on out. It was a bunch of unbelievable racing through ungodly weather conditions. We had a winner from a team-time winner in the team sport. They would ultimately end up winning 4 times in their team's history. And would it be
time? Woo! This is going to be interesting. We have 2 very interesting races in about a year span. Gentlemen, 5 minutes are on the clock when whoever starts talking first.
Well, there was rain in mine too. Not a monsoon, but there was on and off rain. And also there was a wreck on the first lap of mine too. A driver's car died right in the middle of the pack, causing 3 cars forced to retire in the first lap of the race. One of the guys in the top 12 of the standings at the time of the Formula One championships, world championships. So right there is where I bring in my argument about the raw human emotion. Right there, it brought him to tears.
There is way that your race is missing, and unfortunately, that's Michael Schumacher, who was injured a couple weeks prior to that race. Which, and unfortunately, when you don't have the greatest Formula One driver in the history of the sport, it does hurt the event to some scale. Also, the other thing this is just a personal preference on my part. I've never been a fan of races where the weather changes during the race, because then the race becomes more about luck than it becomes about skill. And to me, as you said, it was raining, then it wasn't raining, and all that hoopla that happens. So it became more about when the drivers should change tires, because for those out there that don't know how Formula One works, they have a wet compound tire set and they have a dry compound tire set, or slicks, as everybody would say. And
yes,
it was just a matter of. Go ahead.
You brought up entertainment. That is entertainment right there, is to see the strategy that they bring in, the pit crews deciding when and when not to change the tires, because that was one of the deciding factors when and when not to change the tires. Coulthard stayed on dry tires, and that cost him because he slid off on lap 38, and he ended up having to retire. He also ended up in tears. Fischiella spun out as well from first place, also on the same wet tires. So it's I'm not disagreeing with you there about the on and off, but they never stopped the race. They only brought on the lap car. So they did allow the race to continue. And with the Cinderella story, there was a British man who got his first and only win by the name of Johnny Herbert. And watching his tears of joy as they played the British national anthem at the end was really just touching to me. And that's a Cinderella story if I've ever heard one.
Well, Johnny Herbert actually ended up winning 3 Formula 1 races, but I won't hold that against you.
Not in the 90s, though.
Yeah, not in the 90s, but it was his third all time. The European GP, though, that one actually had kind of a clunky start because they had the aborted start when some guys jumped the start, and then they said, oh, no, that actually wasn't a real start. So kind of from the get-go, it kind of had a weird feel from the sense.
That's because they were in the wrong spot. There were 2 players out of place. But.
Yeah, but that doesn't usually happen, and in fact, I don't think it's really happened since. So kind of from the get-go, that race kind of got off on the wrong foot. Also, me personally, the Nuremberg Ring was never really one of my favorite circuits, and it's not broken my heart that they haven't raced there since 2013, simply because that circuit never really produced good racing. I mean, the race itself, the only way that guys were really able to pass each other is when the guy in front of them literally drove off the track. That's how the majority of the passes were done, and how pretty much all the retirements actually happened. You brought up the fact about all the retirements that happened in your race. Michael Schumacher, who was in the Grand Prix that I was in, was leading the race when he was trying to lap down a car, and Daniel Coulthard, who he was trying to lap, stayed in the racing line because obviously with the wet conditions, he wanted to stay on as dry as much of the circuit as possible. So he stayed in the race. He wasn't able to react in time and smashed right, crashed out. The emotion that Schumacher had and pissed off that he ran into the McLaren pit when that happened. Never seen from Schumacher before, and something that you never saw again, because he felt like that he was royally screwed out of winning that race. And for the Belgian Grand Prix, it's like a crown jewel of best or on the Formula 1 Monaco Grand Prix. So to win that race is so important for so many people. He had that one was kind of a big deal. Damon Hill ended up winning his final race.
Time. Time. Woo! I don't know personally how the other judges felt, but that was an interesting debate. Since Kevin went first, we're going to have JTH. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Maybe there's a
Not even
shadow
wearing
behind
a
it.
Patriot shirt. Come on.
Well,
Man, the
sometimes
Patriots
we
was
all
dead,
make
bro.
mistakes. JTH, you got 60 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
So like I said, I kind of brought up in before about it being more about luck than skill when they have an off-on weather condition race. The perfect example for that would be just this year, the 2019 German Grand Prix had very similar situation in that race where it rained and stopped and rained and stopped, and everyone was confused. No one knew what tires to go on, and you just had this hot mess of a race. A lot of people liked the race. To me, I thought it was all over the place. And when it was all said and done, Daniel Kvyat ended up getting a podium finish on that race, which proves it's more about luck than skill, because that guy has no skill whatsoever. When it comes to the Belgian Grand Prix, to me, that appeases to all facets of racing fans. If you're a diehard racing fan, you love to see how these drivers are going to make it through these horrible weather conditions that they've gone through. For just a basic racing fan, you enjoy it. And for non-racing fans that just want to watch the accidents, well, you got plenty of that too. And so it just appeases to everybody in every facet.
Time. Ooh, big words, big words. All right, philosopher, you got 60 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
I'd like to use my 1 minute here.
Okay, so now you have 2 minutes on the clock. Ryan, you good? Just give me a thumbs up. All right, 2 minutes on the clock when you start talking.
The 1999 European Grand Prix, set in Nuremberg, Germany, is one of the best, if not the best, and most exciting races of the 90s. It's known as the race nobody wanted to win because of the number of lead changes. It's known as the race nobody wanted to win because of the factors of the weather. Okay, there are. Let's see. Okay, taking all the factors into consideration regarding this race and the emotions and the greatness of these four drivers: Mika Hakkinen, Eddie Irvin, Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and David Coulthard. The emotions and the greatness of all those four drivers, and they were all within the reach of glory. The weather and the track conditions, the tire changes, the pit stops, the strategy, and then you have this Englishman, Johnny Herbert, coming out of nowhere and winning the Cinderella story, standing on the podium with his victory out of nowhere, seeing all these tears of joy, anger, disappointment, regret, and even just relief from the wrecks. It really helps me remember why I love sports and why I fell in love with sports in the first place. So that is why this race is really, truly a great race. Not only a race, but just truly a great sport to begin with.
Time. Whew. Interesting. This was a very heated debate. Being the host and the lead judge, I am not going first. I'm gonna let the villain. I always like to see a heel come out and play first. Mr. Haven, what are you thinking?
I'm thinking that both these guys had good facts. They both, gave us the year. They gave us the place it was held at. We didn't really get no car numbers. They named a couple of people that were in the race. JTH only named one person in his race. Kevin named 4 at the very end, but it sounded like he was reading it off a piece of paper instead of remembering it from watching this race. Weather conditions, they both mentioned that, but I couldn't feel it, but at the end of the day, Kevin used the 5-minute round a little more effectively. He gave more stats, in my opinion. JTH was kind of countering him, and even at JTH 60 seconds, he took like 20 to name a different race in the beginning. Then he went into, the race from 1998 in Belgium. So I'm gonna have to give this round to Kevin.
Right on. So that's 1 towards Kevin. Mr. Carmel Mountain, play it on me.
Okay, had to go through my chicken scratch for a second, but my thoughts are similar to Haven's. These guys did give some good facts, and they definitely both painted some good pictures from their openings. How Kevin was definitely talking about some good stats where the Euro Grand Prix was set. How pretty much that line he said, the race nobody wanted to win. So kind of gave you an idea of what story he was going to paint us. But JTH, from his opening to the closing, he really came in on about the Grand Prix, the weather conditions. I definitely like that. The massive car pile up was definitely a good fact in there. How he tells how it falls into some entertainment values there. While some people could look at that race as kind of a bad one, he saw that there were some entertainment values with the unpredictability caused by the weather conditions, also with when it comes to strategy. And even though Kevin did start picking up in the debate round, I think Jeremy's JTH's play-by-play of the 98 Grand Prix not only set the tone and painted a picture of why that race was important, or at least had a semblance of importance there. I just thought that he really was starting to get more into it. He kind of put Kevin into a bit of an uphill battle, and he did use his 2 minutes well, but JTH definitely, let's just say in the sense of a racing, he had this by an inch. So I'm giving my point to JTH.
Oh, we're all tied up. I guess that means it comes down to me. They both have cost me matches before. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding, guys. I will keep this fair and square.
Oh my God. Don't make this personal, man. You don't make it personal.
Oh, I'm just playing, you guys. I love both of you. Honestly, though, I have to give the very slightest to JTH. Just he painted a little bit of a better picture, just ever so slightly in the debate. So I guess we're 1-0 JTH, gentlemen. Let's move on to everybody's favorite American football league, the NFL. Gentlemen, tell us, what is the most unexpected trade of all time that paid off? I'll say it one more time. Most unexpected trade of all time that paid off. Since Kevin went first, JTH, you're up, my friend. 90 seconds when you start talking.
So the trade that I selected has gone down as one of the most infamous trades in all of the NFL. So infamous that they actually made a 30 for 30 documentary on it, known as The Great Trade Robbery. And that, of course, is the infamous Herschel Walker Cowboys-Vikings trade from 1989. So, to put it in a sense, the Dallas Cowboys were, at the time, a actually very bad franchise. Pretty much all they had at the helm was one Herschel Walker and a very, very young Troy Aikman. The season was not going well. They make a deal with the Minnesota Vikings to give Herschel Walker to the Vikings. And in return, the Minnesota Vikings sent back 4 players, 8 draft picks. And with those draft picks, the Dallas Cowboys ended up selecting players like Emmitt Smith and Russell Maryland and Darren Woodson, core elements and players that would kick off the Dallas Cowboys dynasty of the 90s. Meanwhile, you look at what the Minnesota Vikings ended up getting to it. They would end up having Herschel Walker for 2 years, and then he was playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. They were literally still giving draft picks to the Dallas Cowboys while Herschel Walker was rushing for 1,000 yards for another team. That pretty much shows the magnitude of the idiocy, the stupidity that the Vikings ended up having. It would take them nearly 7 years before they would come back, and the Dallas Cowboys would win Super Bowls for years to come.
Time.
Woo! Woo! Coming out with the Vikings, getting Herschel Walker from the Cowboys. Kevin, tell us, what trade paid off?
All right. The most unexpected trade of all time that paid off was the 1985 acquisition on draft day of Jerry Rice from the New England Patriots to the San Francisco 49ers for their first, second, and third round picks. And I will concede my time.
Wow! That is bold, ladies and gentlemen, across the world. Kevin, we're dropping the mic. All right, guys, 5 minutes. Tell us why yours paid off.
Here's the problem here's the problem with the Jerry Rice deal. A lot of people probably look at that trade and think, oh, this Jerry Rice deal probably set the 49ers up for years to come. Here's the thing about that. The year before they acquired Jerry Rice, the 49ers went 15-1 and, oh, by the way, won the Super Bowl. So they were already a great team before they even acquired Jerry Rice. It was just icing on the cake. Go ahead.
Two things, though, unexpected because – one, he was from a 1AA school with a spread offense, and everybody said his records and his stats from Mississippi Valley State were bloated. And two, the Kansas City Chiefs, the 49ers' main rivals at the time, who needed desperately a wide receiver at the time, totally passed on him. And got a running back who nobody even remembers and did nothing in the league. But and also the question says paid off. Herschel Walker never made a Super Bowl. Jerry Rice.
But we're talking about the other side of the spectrum.
3-time Super Bowl champ.
We're talking about the other side.
He was Super Bowl 23 MVP.
By that logic, the New England Patriots did not pay off with the Jerry Rice deal either. If you're going to say that, oh, the Vikings didn't pay off with their side, then what did the Patriots didn't go to a Super Bowl for over a decade after that. So obviously that deal did not pay off whatsoever. So we can't have it both ways. We can't say that only one team on my side worked, and then again, the same thing.
There were 18 people. That's the largest trade in NFL history. Yours is the largest trade in NFL history. There were 18 people in that trade.
And look what it set off. The Dallas Cowboys dynasty of the 90s does not happen if that deal does not go through. All the core player, future Hall of Famers that they got.
It paid off for everyone. It paid off for every single person then.
It didn't pay off for every single person in your deal either.
Well, I mean, I think the Patriots are pretty damn good now.
Okay, but that
Patriots and 49ers are in the top 3 or 4 teams.
I was born. That deal happened over 30 years ago.
So did the 49ers deal. It happened before I was born.
Okay, we're talking about the Super Bowls that they won afterwards. We're talking about the direct, immediate success of what happened from the Herschel Walker deal when the Cowboys got all those picks. They then ended up winning 3 Super Bowls in the next 6 years. The 49ers
Herschel Walker went to the Vikings. What are you talking about?
We're talking about the Cowboys.
All right, let me give you some stats about. All right, let me give you some stats about my guy, Jerry Rice.
Time. I'm calling timeout. Ryan, count me off, Ryan.
Yeah, stop the time. Yeah.
All right, guys. Everybody slow down. I know this is an extremely heated debate, but let's slow down and take it civilly. All right, go.
All right. Jerry Rice had 13 Pro Bowl seasons, 10 first-team All-Pro seasons, 197 touchdowns to Herschel Walker's 61. He was first-team All-80s, first-team All-90s, NFC Offensive Rookie of the Year 85. NFL records are career receptions, receiving yards, touchdowns, total TDs, career all-purpose yards, 6 receiving TDs leader, 6 times receiving TDs leader, 6 times receiving yards leader, 2 times NFL Offensive Player of the Year. I mean, your guy had 2,000-yard seasons. I mean, my guy's Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time. Herschel Walker, I can think of Jim Brown, the Bus, Barry Sanders. I can think of at least them, if not more, off the top of my head.
The thing, I think you've misinterpreted what I was referring to with the answer. I'm not referring to Herschel Walker going to the Vikings and they became successful. I'm talking about the other way around. I'm talking about the team that acquired all the picks that got that deal. As I said, they got 4 players. The Dallas Cowboys got 4 players in that deal, and they got a first and second round pick in the 90 draft, first and second rounder in the 91 draft, and a first and second and third rounder in the 92 draft. All while, yes, Herschel Walker was already on another team while the Cowboys were already acquiring those picks. Now, the Jerry Rice deal, Well, again, like I said, they were a Super Bowl team before they acquired Jerry Rice. It would then take another 4 years before the 49ers even won another playoff game. So in the meantime, Jerry Rice did not wield immediate success. It took them drafting another wide receiver in the following year's draft in John Taylor in the 86 draft to go opposite of Jerry Rice before they finally took off and became that dynasty team that we all know about.
Then let's take your approach and say the Aikman Cowboys team that got all those picks, that they became the dynasty of the 90s, that they did. It took them 10 years.
No, because they won
You're
their
saying it took Jerry
Super Bowl by 92.
You're saying it. Yeah, but you're saying it took the
Time.
Jerry Rice team. Jerry Rice
Time.
produced stats
Time.
immediately.
Time. Whoa, time. Save it for your closing, gentlemen. JTH went first to open, so Kevin, you're going to go first to close us. 60 seconds when you start talking.
My argument is that the most unexpected trade of all time that paid off was the 1985 draft day trade of the greatest of all time, Jerry Rice. Now, that is saying the 49ers end of the deal, because Jerry Rice started producing instantly for the 49ers. He was the rookie of the year that year. He was a 3-time Super Bowl champ, a 4-time Super Bowl wide receiver. 6 times he led the NFL in receiving yards and receiving touchdowns. He still leads the NFL in all kinds of records. He is just one of the greatest, if not the greatest, and I just can't think of anything against him.
Time. All right, JTH, 60 seconds, unless you want to use your 1-minute extension. Close out this round, good sir.
I will use my minute extension, please.
All righty. I will reiterate what I said. JTH, you have 2 minutes on the clock when you start talking.
So the Herschel Walker deal, when the Cowboys sent Herschel Walker away, by the end of that season in 89, they were a 1-15 football team. Within 3 years, they were hosting the Lombardi Trophy, and they would end up winning another one the year after, and then would win another one 2 years after that. That deal would ultimately allow them, obviously we're talking about Jerry Rice being the greatest wide receiver of all time. All the draft picks that they acquired allowed them to draft Emmitt Smith, who is regarded as the greatest running back of all time. Also acquired Darren Woodson, Russell Maryland, core elements to what became a dynasty, a dominant defense for the Dallas Cowboys for many, many years. Now, let's also think about this from today's era. Imagine in today's NFL, if one player went to a team and a team gave away 8 draft picks in order to acquire that player. That GM would be fired before the ink even hit the paper. It is so ridiculous and dumbfounding to think about a deal of that magnitude that would ever happen. I mean, hell, go back to just a month ago when Jalen Ramsey was acquired by the Rams. Everybody was like, the Rams gave up 3 draft picks to get Jalen Ramsey. What are they thinking? The Herschel Walker deal is the Jalen Ramsey deal times 3. Just think about that. Plus, they acquired 4 additional players. So technically, it's times 4 if you think about it. So it's just, and again, as I pointed out, they were a 1-15 team. Without those picks, without those players, the Dallas Cowboys dynasty does not happen. They might acquire a couple of those players in the draft, but they do not become this dominant team of the 90s that they would ultimately become. Herschel Walker, yes, He floundered when he was with the Vikings. They got rid of him. They sent him to Philadelphia while they were still giving the Dallas Cowboys
Time. Woo! This was just, in the words of everybody's
You
favorite
just said Emmitt Smith
AEW,
one of the best running backs of all time.
everybody's favorite AEW commentators. What a slobber knocker! Woo! This was fun. I'm not sure as hell going first, Mr. Ryan. What are you thinking, homie?
Wow.
Damn you and your abuse of power. Okay. Look, this one was definitely hard because Kevin and JTH both came not only with the stats, but they came with the passion about their trades. I had to look back on the question itself. Actually, can you give me the question again? Because I had two different interpretations here.
Sure.
What was the? Oh, you say it.
Sure. It's most unexpected of all time that pays off.
Yeah, there were definitely two separate definitions there. We had JTH with his trade with the great train robbery on how, even though the Cowboys didn't get immediate success, but it did build to their future, to redesigning their team, building that dynasty they had with the draft picks they got from the Vikings. And then Kevin with his talking about how the 49ers got Jerry Rice, and even though they did get the immediate success, JTH did bump him a bit, telling him that 49ers didn't actually get to Super Bowl success until 4 years later. And I swear to God, my notes, you guys are going back and forth so many times, I had hard keeping track. But laying down on the facts when it came down to it, ultimately, JTH once again actually gets my point because the fact, when he brought that last point about the trade deal, if it happened in today's sports system, that GM, no matter how experienced he is, how smart he was, he would have been fired by owners because of the pretty much of the backlash and the and of the shock it would get in today's sports world. Now, if Kevin was able to give me something equivalent to what JTH dropped, not just in the closing, but if he had brought something up a little more similar, I mean, yes, the Patriots did get something in return. I mean, they're good now, but if he had talked about how the Patriots were able to slightly benefit a little more by giving Jerry Rice to the 49ers, other than the draft picks, we would have gotten it. You would have been on level, but JTH just narrowed it once again by an inch in his closing arguments.
Okay, so that's 1 point towards JTH. I'm going to go next. And there's something that you said that kind of resonated with me. JTH brought up that they acquired Jerry Rice and then acquired in the next draft a wide receiver to counter Jerry Rice. And that's when their Super Bowls came. But then in that same sentence, he also stated that it took later down the line with the draft picks for the So I love both the way they both took this question. JTH went who benefited from actually the player leaving, and Kevin got it from the player arriving. And I think I'm going to give my point to Kevin. So I guess we're going to turn it over to the heel now. Mr. Villain, what are you thinking, brother, man?
JTH won this round. It's just Ryan, not Ryan. Fuck that. Kevin, I think he misinterpreted JTH's answer because he just stuck on. He kept talking about Herschel, too much instead of countering that, because JTH's whole thing was what the Dallas Cowboys were able to get, not Herschel. And this thing, of course he picked a great player, but JTH, gave us a trade actually that happened while the guy was already playing, not a trade while the guy never stepped foot in the NFL to me. So I'm gonna have to give it to JTH on this one.
All right, so we are now 2-0. We are moving into knockout territory. JTH, you are 1 point from the win. Kevin, you need one to stay alive. Let's see if the NCAA helps. Best NCAA football team of the 2000s. Mr. Kevin, JTH went first last time, so open us up with 90 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
For the best NCAA football team of the noughties, I have the 2001 Miami Hurricanes. And as much as it hurts to say me as a Florida State University fan, this is not only the best team of the 2000s, but debatably the best team of all time. They did go a perfect 12-0, 7-0 in the what was known as the Big East Conference at the time. They did win the conference. They destroyed teams, which I'll get into a little bit later. They were invited to the Rose Bowl that year, which they played Nebraska in the BCS National Championship. They destroyed them 34-17 to win the school's 5th national title. This team was just dominant, plain and simple. And I would beg anybody to put one up against it. So 2001 Miami Hurricanes, and go. Concede time.
All right, Kevin coming in with the Hurricane. JTH, Mr. You've got 90 seconds on the clock to tell us what was the best NCAA football team of the 2000s.
It's definitely a good pick. 01 Miami is definitely teams of that decade. But another team that came out kind of similar was the 2004 USC Trojans by Heisman Trophy Matt Leinart. You had the 2 running back tandem of Reggie Bush and Lendale White. This team was en route to dominating Oklahoma in the national championship by a 16, a 39-point championship game, and that Oklahoma team that had the previous year's White and a named Adrian en route to a 2000 season, and USC just completely took them to school. That Oklahoma team played about as bad as Ashley Simpson during the halftime show that year. Absolutely dismal and dreadful, and the judges are laughing because they knew that one was going to be funny. The Pac-10 at the time was a very, very deep conference, and for USC to completely run through all those teams in that, including a Cal team that had a little-known quarterback named Aaron Rodgers, took him to school, beat him down en route to an unbelievable, unblemished, undefeated season. 2004 USC Trojans, best team of that decade.
All right. So we got the 01 Miami Hurricane taking on the 04 USC Trojans. Gentlemen, 5 minutes are on the clock, and please remember, let's be good sports. No pun intended. Let's talk like gentlemen. 5 minutes when somebody starts talking.
So the USC Trojans did play a tough schedule that year, but let's don't forget the USC Trojans got that year vacated. That title doesn't exist, according to the books. So I don't know if we can even count it, but anyhow, the 2001 Hurricanes, they drubbed some teams like my FSU Hurricanes, which hurt really badly, in Tallahassee, 49-27 in front of 83,000 people. They were led by Ken Dorsey Jr. at quarterback. They had people like Ed Reed, Andre Johnson, Clinton Portis at running back, Jeremy Shockey tight end, Jonathan Vilma at linebacker, Vince Wilfork at defensive tackle. They also had a good underclass. 38, I believe, of this team went in the NFL draft, which is almost unheard of. And 17 of them went in the first round from 2002 to 2006. So
all right, I'll stop you there. First off, I will concede, yes, they ultimately did have the national championship vacated because of Reggie Bush and his shenanigans. But ultimately, the question is, who is the best team? It's not who is the best national champion. So we'll just throw it out the window there. First off, the Miami Hurricanes at the time were part of the Big East Conference, which was a bunch of scrubs at the time. I think we can all concede that. They were beating teams like Rutgers, beating teams like Temple, who back in the day was an absolute nobody, nothing. They were basically a AA school that was trotting out a college football team. I will give you the Florida State win because that is obviously a big rivalry game, a big win. Other than that, their other big non-conference win was against Penn State, which was not the team that we know them now or back in their glory days. They were kind of in a valley at the time. Go ahead.
5 out of 12. 5 out of 12 were ranked opponents that they beat that year. Yes, sir, they were. Yes, 5 out of 12.
That doesn't matter.
Yes, sure it does.
Maryland football this year was ranked in the top 25, and they haven't won a game since mid-September.
Okay,
I personally don't care about the little number that's next to the university. That's just me, though. Go ahead.
Well, you know what I care about is what makes a team a team. A team is not just what happens between the white lines, sir. A team is what happens in the locker room and inside the classroom as well, and inside the dorm rooms. And when you have a cheater on your team, somebody who steals, somebody who takes bribes, like Reggie Bush and probably other players too, let's be honest, then and you have a national title vacated, that's not the best team. I'm sorry.
You can say what you want about off the field, but that wasn't on the field. They didn't cheat on the field. They didn't.
It doesn't say what's the best on the field team. It says the best NCAA football team.
Okay, that's fair enough. But you're saying that they got the national championship taken away from them, therefore they're not the best team. I don't buy that argument. Yes, Miami is a good team. However, my team ultimately ended up having 2 Heisman Trophy winners. Your team had none. I would still take Matt Leinart over Ken Dorsey any day. I would definitely take Pete Carroll over Larry Coker, who, after a couple years,
you would take Matt Leinart over Ken Dorsey, and who?
I would take Pete Carroll over Larry Coker, Miami's head coach.
Okay. You got any others?
I'll admit you definitely have an NFL-studded team, but
because I still have Philip Buchanan, Sean Taylor, Najee Davenport, Frank Gore, Kellen Winslow, Antrell Roll.
1 minute.
Trust me, Miami was my team growing up. I'm very well aware of that 2001 team. It is loaded with talent, no question. However,
Absolutely.
I actually think that actually helps the USC argument because the USC team is not filled with a whole lot of NFL caliber talent, which I think is a testament of all those great teams that they ended up beating. Like, how does a team with hardly any NFL caliber defensive players beat a team like California that had Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, and not just beat them, beat them down?
They set the NCAA record for they set an NCAA record for points consecutively scored versus a ranked opponent, 124-7.
That's fair enough, but I believe that
How
Syracuse.
Can you say they're not an NFL caliber team?
I said on defense. Defense, they don't have other than
Ed Reed and
I'm talking about
Vince
USC.
Wilfork and Jonathan
I'm talking about USC.
Oh.
Time.
Then it's not.
All right, gentlemen. These closing arguments are going to be interesting. JTH, Kevin went first to open, so close us out, Senor.
Kevin did bring up the plethora of NFL talent that 01 Miami team had, all those NFL players, which to me, I actually think makes it more surprising that they only beat Nebraska in that championship game by as little as they did. You would think with that level of talent, they would have absolutely destroyed Nebraska like USC did with Oklahoma, which many people probably don't even remember. Oklahoma was favored in that national championship game, and USC just completely took them to school 55-16, as I said. That was the most lopsided margin of victory in a national championship game until Alabama destroyed Notre Dame a few years later. This USC team was absolutely loaded, although not with NFL talent top to bottom, had players that were NFL caliber talent where it needed to be, but ultimately goes down as one of the most remarkable seasons in NCAA history, was number one ranked from beginning to end. Very few teams can say that they did that, and it was just an all-around great season.
Time. Whoo! All right, Mr. Philosopher, close out this round, sir.
The best NCAA football team of the noughties is definitely the 2001 Miami Hurricanes, as much as it hurts me to say. And if you have no defense, you have no team. And if you have a cheater, you have no team. Yes, Leinart and Bush were good. Yes, they drubbed Oklahoma. AD and Jay White, they gave up that year, man. Yes, Nebraska, they put up a fight against the Hurricanes, but that's because it was the Rose Bowl, and that's because it was against the Hurricanes. They wanted to put up a fight. They wanted to win. The Hurricanes have 38 overall selected in the NFL draft, a combined 43 trips to the Pro Bowl as of 2013. 7 of them have won at least one Super Bowl ring. Only team ever to have its first, second, third, and fourth string running back all later become starting running backs in the NFL. And it's the only time I'll ever pick the U.
Time. Wow. Strong arguments back and forth.
I'm sorry, guys.
I guess I'll go first. JTH had a lot of ammunition. He knew. He definitely came to this fight with a gun. Kevin did too. And one thing that he said that really stuck out was the fact that to be the best, you've got to pick up the trophy. And Kevin brought up the fact that Reggie Bush was caught cheating and that win was taken from him. So that's a nick against the team themselves. Their team could have come in and stopped him. So I'm going to give my point to Kevin. He really hammered that home and it kind of hit. Let's go Haven, buddy. What are you thinking?
I agree with you. I give Kevin the point on this one because JTH, he brings a strong argument every round. But this round, to me, Kevin was able to cut in and just keep more time under his belt, and give us statistics too. JTH had a good argument, but Kevin didn't let him run away with it, in this round. Kevin was always there, cutting him off, just going, bringing up facts too. So at the end of the day, I'm gonna give this one to Kevin.
All right.
That's fine with me. I knew I had no chance
that I don't normally say. All right, guys, that was a hell of a debate. All right, this is a great moment in sports. We are down to the fourth question. We are down 2-1. Are we looking at a speed round? Can Kevin pull that out, or is JTH going to get the win? Gentlemen, your fourth and final prepped question comes in the NBA. What team, after a bad current run, could later this season have a great run? Kevin went first last time, so JTH, you got 90 seconds when you start talking.
So my team, I believe, is currently one game out of the 8th seed in the East. I went with the Detroit Pistons. Basically, just because right now this team is just hampered with injuries. It's not diabolical, debilitating injuries. It's just nagging injuries that are keeping a lot of great players out of their team right now. Right now, I believe they don't currently even have a pure point guard on their roster that is not out. Like, not injured, but out. Reggie Jackson is out. Derrick Rose is out. Tim Frazier is out. That's all 3 of their point guards on that roster. And, oh, by the way, Blake Griffin is also banged up as well. If they can just get all of those players healthy, back to full strength, combine them with Tony Snell, who's a very underrated 2 guard, and Andre Drummond, who is one of the best young centers in the game, who's, I believe, only 26, so he's just entering his prime. Playing in the East obviously helps when you got teams like the Knicks and the Wizards and the Bulls. You're going to pack up a lot of easy wins on them. Just unfortunately right now, they just are a little bit too injured to be able to do anything about that right now. But again, they're only a game out of the 8th seed. They can just make a decent run, and they can sneak back into the playoffs. So I went with the Detroit Pistons as a team that can sneak under the radar and make a run come playoff time. And I can see.
Ooh. Ooh. JTH coming with the Detroit Pistons. Kevin, what kind of fumbling team can make a great run later this season?
I decided to go to the Western Conference, and I chose the now 2-7 Golden State Warriors. I know they've started slowly this season. They also have been bitten by the injury bug, but I believe they do have the best chance to make a good run. Since the Durant trade and a plethora of injuries, this is the first Warriors team that we have seen not dominate from the get-go in the last several years, if not the last decade, I believe, in the Western Conference. And with Klay Thompson and a lot of these senior guys out, I don't know what's going to happen, but I'll get into that in my main argument. But I know that they have Steve Kerr, so that I know that GSW has been there before, and so I know he'll keep them calm, he'll keep them cool, he'll keep them collected in the face of adversity. So I do believe that young guys like Eric Pascal and Willie Cauley-Stein and Omari Spellman, like they'll be able to pick up the slack. So I will concede the time here.
All right. So we got the Detroit Pistons and the Golden State Warriors. Game I'd love to see. Gentlemen, 5 minutes. Remember, talk back and forth, not each other. I know this is a big round, so everybody take a breath. And 5 minutes when somebody starts talking.
You brought up the injuries when it came to the Golden State Warriors. The problem is, unlike the Pistons, they're not nagging injuries. They're debilitating injuries. Klay Thompson, torn ACL, he's not coming back. Steph Curry, broken hand, he's going to be out for 4 months. By the time that he comes back, they could be so far out of it, especially in the West, where you have to finish over 500 in order to make the playoffs. Being already 5 down and a lot of caliber teams in that conference makes it way, way tougher. It's not impossible, but it is very, very hard to come back in the West when you're already in a big hole.
I agree with you there. But like I said, I think Steve Kerr knows what he's doing. Putting Eric Pascal on the wing, they're already calling him a Klay Thompson lookalike. He is scoring 23 points per game already from the wing. So if that keeps up for the season, I don't think that. I mean, I'm not going to say that they won't miss Klay Thompson, but his leadership will still be there in the locker room, and as will that of I'm sorry, shit.
Well, he's definitely not Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, all NBA third team. He can drop 30 points on a bad night. Right. Ultimately, the Warriors throughout the years was overcome by a pretty weak bench. They don't really have a lot of depth when you actually look at the grand scheme. They got some players. You got Draymond, who's kind of more of a role player, but ultimately that team was bailed out just by how good Durant, Curry, and Thompson were. Now that all 3 of them are gone, 2 are hurt, 1 is gone anyway. Go ahead.
Talking about your injury bug, though. Like you're talking about, you have Derrick Rose, Tim Frazier, and Blake Griffin. SAWFT, soft, man. They're gonna they may not be long-term injuries now, but they are gonna turn into long injuries. So, and they're 24th in the league, 17 turnovers a game right now. Drummond's putting up 4 a game turnovers. I mean, how are you gonna maintain that?
Well, that's the main problem with the Pistons right now. As I pointed out, they don't have a point guard to actually lead them, to control the offense and run the offense effectively. And you brought up soft. You know what else is soft? The East. And when you're in the East, you always have a better chance to make a run than in the West when you have to play the complete bottom feeders, other than the Pelicans in the West, which eventually Zion will come back. There's not an easy out anywhere.
So will eventually.
Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
It just, when it comes to all the Pistons need right now is just 2 of their 3-point guards to get out there and play. It's not even the fact of they're just nagging injuries. As you said, Derrick Rose, yes, he's always naggingly injured and all that. Reggie Jackson, however, I think is an underrated point guard. He can run that offense. They're young. They have great players where they need them to be. Andre Drummond, when he is on, is a very, very underrated player. 26 in his prime. Not many players in the paint can stop him. Blake Griffin, still insanely athletic if he can get on the court. Which, of course, is a
get on the court. That's a big
yes, if he can get on the court. But if any of those players can get on the court, they have miles of a better chance to make a run in the East.
And how about Bruce Brown's temper with all those technicals he's been getting lately?
Well, when you're the backup 3 and you're having to play the point guard, that's a pretty bad sign. But again, that just comes down to the injury bug that they got right now.
Well, yeah, but what if it happens later on down the line? Then you're not going to make. How do you expect to make the playoffs, even in an easy East? I think the Warriors have a better backup team, even with, Willie Cauley-Stein, Omari Spellman, Marquise Chris, D'Angelo Russell. They got all these guys, Russell Green, Looney, Curry, Pascal. You've got all these guys that are just, I think, could even start on a lot of teams, even my own Hawks team.
Could start, but they haven't been starting lately just because they hadn't been needed to with that roster that they had. Now being called upon when they need to start winning. Like, they can't wait. They have to start winning now. Like, they got to get back to 500 ASAP, or else it's going to be too late by the time Curry's going to be able to come back and try to save them. Like, Curry's a great player, but he's not God. And
Russell's coming back tomorrow night, though. He's expected back tomorrow night. So, that's 119 points a game.
D'Angelo Russell's still not Steph Curry.
I agree, but that's 119 points a game they've been missing. So you put up a starting lineup of Curry, Pascal, Russell, Green.
Time. What a heated sports brawl here, ladies and gentlemen. All right, competitors, again, take a deep breath. Collect your thoughts. You each have 60 seconds on the clock. JTH went first. So, Kevin, you're going to close out this round first for us. 60 seconds when you take your deep breath, get your thoughts together, and bring it on.
While it's still very early in this NBA season, and the Golden State Warriors are only 2-7. There are 82 games, and there is no need to panic. Steve Kerr has been there before in the playoffs, and he will keep them calm. He'll keep them prepped. Klay Thompson and Curry, Steph Curry will. They are veteran enough to keep that presence on the bench, keep them all calm. And with Russell coming back tomorrow, I believe that will add another element to the team to bring them back to 500, put them back into contention in the West. And then, like I said, you bring a starting lineup of Steph Curry, Pascal, which is, like I said, they've already called him a Klay Thompson look-alike, not Klay Thompson exactly, but Klay Thompson look-alike. Russell Green.
Time. Ooh, interesting. JTH, take your last deep breath of the round. Compose your thoughts, and you got 60 seconds when you start talking.
The Warriors were 2-4 even before Steph Curry got hurt. They were absolutely demolished by the Toronto game. So Steph Curry by himself, that he alone will be able to help this team in a very stacked way. He's going to be out now until at least March. When you lose a player of that caliber and you don't have him. And oh, by the way, you don't have a quality enough player to replace the other guy who made up the best backcourt in the NBA with Curry, with Thompson, and you don't have a deep enough bench to be able to maintain that. D'Angelo Russell, he's not half the player of Steph Curry. He's not half the player of Klay Thompson. Steve, the reason why many people think that the Warriors are going to be fine is just because of the name, the Warriors. They've been to 5 straight finals. They're going to be fine. It's not that easy in the West. The East with the Pistons, just get some people healthy, and they can run off a lot of great teams.
Whoa. Man, they are swinging for the fences. Ooh, coming back with the sports puns. All right. I'm gonna flex my authoritative power, and I'm going to let this first punch lie with Ryan. Ryan, buddy, what are you thinking? Because I'm stuck.
Yeah, I'm right in the quicksand with you. I am stuck right now. I mean, honestly, both Jeremy and Kevin did a great job in their opening, really giving us not just painting a picture, but just giving us first bit by bit of their teams, what they were suffering, and what could. I mean, pretty much they just listed down what the teams were suffering from the previous season, and so for me, it all depended on how the teams will move forward. And man, I swear the debate just came back on just focusing on certain. Both Kevin and Jeremy did bring up good points. They brought up some players that could definitely. God, it's oh my God, it's so hard here. But when the moment they moved away from injuries, I think I was starting to hear some more from their arguments here. JJ did talk about how Detroit might have a better recovery because in the Eastern Conference, it's not much of a hill or mountain to climb as it is in the West. But Kevin was giving out a bit of more hopefulness with the Warriors. Honestly, this fell to the closing arguments here. And when it came to the closing arguments, JT spent more time downplaying the Warriors than building up the Pistons on how they can make a great run this season. And Kevin, on the other hand, he did provide a little more detail on where the Warriors will move forward during this season. So my point's going to Kevin.
Ooh, 1 point, Kevin. Do we see a speed round question? Villain, homie, what you got, Haven?
All right. Yeah, I'm going to have to give this one to JTH on this one. He was a little more in the know with the Pistons. I could see why I don't even see why Kevin would pick the Warriors. But, I didn't judge him on that. I let him do his argument. But realistically, nothing in his argument made me, at the end of the day, none of his argument told me, yeah, okay, the Warriors are going to make the playoffs. JTH had more solid ground with naming the players, naming the positions, naming the time frame they'll be back. So at the end of the day, I'm going to be fair, and I got to give it to JTH.
Oh, I hate you both. Because I am so debating in my own head where to go. But I like a point Ryan made. Ryan brought up that a lot of the time JTH was knocking the Warriors, but not really defending his team. So I think I'm going to also give my point to Kevin by the narrowest of margins, which, ladies and gentlemen, that means we are tied at 2 apiece. This is a great moment in sports. We are down to the speed round. We are going to move into the speed round, which they will have a 45-second opening, a 30-second rebuttal, and a 20-second closing. When I read the question twice, say your name when you have your answer. You'll give it to me. Your opponent will give me his answer, and you'll have 45 seconds when you begin. I don't know where I started that. I'm going to make up my own rules, apparently. All right, gentlemen, are we ready?
Sure.
Let's do it.
Screw you both then. All right, Ryan. Kevin gets both all 3 points.
All right.
So,
Good night.
Your question is, and I will read it twice to you, and then when you got your answer, say it, and then we will go from there. First one to answer will go first. And we have best NFL dynasty. Again, best NFL dynasty.
Oh, 1998
Yeah,
Cowboys, or that around that
okay,
year.
so
Cowboys.
we have America's team, the Cowboys. JTH, when you get your thought pulled together, I'm gonna have to count you down here shortly. 10.
I will go with the late '60s Green Bay Packers.
Ooh, so we have America's team, the Cowboys, taking on the Green Bay Packers. Since Kevin spoke his name first and his answer, Kevin, 45 seconds when you start talking.
All right. This is, like you said, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys, led by Troy Aikman as quarterback. Number 8 had Emmett Steele in the backfield. Number 22 was one of the best all-time running backs. I remember growing up loving this team. It just even the stadium being named, or it being named America's team, and it being God's stadium. So he having the cut out in the stadium so that you could God could look down and watch the Cowboys play. I always just thought that was fascinating. I really wish I could think of more players.
Time. Whoo! Okay. Mr. JTH is coming with the Cheeseheads, the Green Bay Packers. Tell us, JTH, why are the Green Bay Packers the greatest dynasty of all time?
The mid to late '60s Green Bay Packers dynasty obviously is most known because obviously you have your head coach Vince Lombardi, who became so famous that they named the Super Bowl trophy after him. Winners of the first 2 Super Bowls, defeating the Kansas City Chiefs and the LA Raiders, respectively. Also winning the NFL championship the year prior. So that was a three-peat of an NFL championship. You had great Hall of Fame players like Bart Starr. You had Max McGee, who ended up catching the first NFL touchdown in a Super Bowl. And you had other players like Elijah Pitts at running back. And it was just an all-around deep team. And what also makes the team that great is because during the time of the AFL merger, they were beating the best that the AFL had to play at the time, which set the tone for what the AFL-NFL merger would be.
Time. Ooh, this is getting interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, this is still a great moment in sports. Mr. Philosopher, you got 30 seconds on the clock when you start talking.
One thing I'll bring up about the merger that you didn't bring up is the fact that they sold the tickets to the public. But Aikman versus Young was one of the quarterback battles that I used to love. The Super Bowls that they would battle to get to in the NFC championships between Young's 49ers and Aikman's Cowboys. Set this stage for today's Jerry Jones Cowboys teams and their famous
Time. JTH, how are you going to rebut that with the Packers? 30 seconds when you start talking.
The Dallas Cowboys dynasty pretty much lasted 4 years. Steve Young and the 49ers beat them prior to that dynasty getting started, and Brett Favre and the Packers were beating them prior to that. So it was really only a 4-year run. Green Bay Packers arguably had a twice as long run, lasting 8 years, with multiple Super Bowls, multiple NFL championships. you talk about, the fact that, pre-sold tickets and all that with the Super Bowl, but it was to get the attention of how great the NFL was, and what better way to premiere the NFL with arguably the greatest team in that era, the Green Bay Packers.
Time. Ooh. Gentlemen, I'm going to say this once and once only again. Take a deep breath, collect your thoughts, and this last 20 seconds apiece will determine the match. Kevin, close us out.
You say there's only 4 years that it lasts, the Cowboys dynasty, but are you talking about the Favre dynasty or the Lombardi dynasty? I'm not sure. And then you're bringing up my own dynasties. Bring up your own. But Aikman and Young yes, the Aikman dynasty was 4 years. That's the dynasty I'm referring to.
Time. All right, JTH. Close this match out for us. You got 20 seconds when you start talking.
The 60s Green Bay Packers will ultimately always have Vince Lombardi, who I would take over any head coach that the Dallas Cowboys threw out there. Bart Starr, I will always take over Troy Aikman, and I will always take a three-peat of an NFL championship over a 3 championship out of longer years. When you can three-peat in NFL, that's a hard thing. Even the Patriots had not done it, which shows how hard it is.
Hey guys, both of you, this was a great match. I'm going to go first. I think I have to give the edge to JTH just because he kind of explained, he countered every point that Kevin made. He went player for player, coach for coach, and I think just by the narrowest margin, JTH won this one. Let's go over to Haven. Haven, what are you thinking, brother?
I am gonna agree with you. It just Kevin just didn't say shit in his last 20 seconds. He didn't have, he didn't come through in the last 20 seconds when we gave him the time. No lasting impression. He kind of took too long to get wherever he was going, and then the time ran out. JTH kept it short and sweet. He went with quarterbacks. I was still trying to confirm if he was actually right on the stat, because I believe the Dallas, I don't think they won 3 in a row, so he might be correct on that. But I'm not sure if the Packers did also. But at the end of the day, JTH just had more facts in this speed round to me.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, and your winner with a score of 3-2, JTH. All right, so we're going to jump into a quick little post-interview. We're going to start with our second place finisher, Kevin. Kevin, man, you definitely have had improvement. You went 3-2. You couldn't have pulled out an even closer match. How you feeling, brother?
I wish I would have picked a different dynasty on that speed round question. I went Cowboys to try to counter. I thought maybe that would take away some of his argument that he had prepared from earlier. But it is what it is, and I'm happy with my performance. I'm just happy that we even made it to the speed round, honestly. And I feel good about it. I even feel good about the ones that I didn't win. I feel like they were close. So yeah, it was a good match.
Right on. Brother, don't hold your head. I promise you, this was a hell of a match. Trust me, going into the third question, you were down 0-2, and you came back and won 2 in a row to take it to the speed round. That is impressive in itself. Now we're going to step over and talk to our winner, Mr. JTH. Apparently the Ravens brought you luck this round. How you feeling, buddy?
Well, I feel like Joe Flacco, who came in the clutch, and then, of course, the defense got all the credit. So, it's just typical Ravens and all that mess. But, of course, now Lamar Jackson is playing pretty good, and he gets all the praise while a top elite defense is actually playing their butt off. So, double standards, everybody. Everybody loves double standards. But, that speed round, I had to think about it before I went with 60s Packers, simply because I had a feeling that Kevin may not have been as knowledgeable about the history of that Packers dynasty. So I had a feeling that he might not have been able to counter as much. And obviously, because he picked, the Cowboys, I had a little bit in my head of what I could say to kind of counteract it. So it ultimately worked out. I'm happy that I was able to get a win, because I was not very confident with questions 3 and 4. I knew I had my work cut out for him. So the match kind of played out exactly like I was expecting it to, and just thankfully I was able to get the win in the end.
Right on. Speed round. Trust me, myself and the other judges know that the speed round can kill or it can make your round. So we're going to step over and talk to Haven. Haven, you just witnessed this fight. What do you think?
Holy shit, man! I was glad I was here tonight. This was a hell of a match. Both of these guys, especially in this league of sports brawl, brung it. If I have to give criticism, I think if Kevin, if he would have brung some more facts in, throughout the arguments, I think he might have been able to edge this one out, because in the speed round, if he would have just hit us with straight facts, because the time was so short, if he would have said, hey, in this year, the Cowboys went this and this, and then won the Super Bowl, and then this year next, boom, boom, if he would have just, gave me a little more, he probably would have ended up winning this one, but JTH, my hat is off to him. He knew his facts, and you could tell he's in some of the stronger categories that he was able to argue, you could tell that he actually loves that sport. So that was a plus for him. But it was a great match.
Right. I feel you on that. Carl, feeling watch Sports Brawl?
Oh my God! A part of me felt like I'm glad I'm not participating in Sports Brawl anymore, because, jeez, man, I have the same sentiments as Haven when it came to the speed round. If Kevin had taken more opportunity, like really had more time to, look at the speed round in general. Like if he had focused more on the limited time he had, I liked in the opening how he was really trying to paint a story here on why Cowboys were a dynasty team, and I don't mind the personal story to it, but it would have worked better in a regular debate round. But for the speed round, he gave out some facts, or at least really got a narrative going in the speed round, he would definitely have edged out to him. But this doesn't show. He came back big time from a 2-0, back set from after the second question. And in most debate matches, not many people are able to come back from that. Sometimes it could lead to a 3-1 loss or pretty much a 3-0 knockout. And someone who's had experience being knocked out before, I can tell you that Kevin came back with a vengeance, so he did a great job here. And no shade towards him, man. He was awesome. And GG, in his categories, after that first question, it almost felt like he had this whole thing like he had this whole round knocked down, but it was just kind of, oh my God, it's really hard because this match really could have gone either way after that second question.
No, I completely agree. All right, so let's go around. Kevin, where can people find you on the internet?
I am on Facebook at Kevin Poss. I'm on Twitter at Poss_Kevin. You can find me on Take 3 and The Cool Guy. And I hang out at Transvail, which is a D&D podcast. I'm a Patreon there, so go hang out there Sunday nights around 11 o'clock and join their Patreon, guys. They're awesome.
All righty. JTH, we know Mr. You. Tell us, where can we find you on the internet?
You can follow me on Twitter at WWE. You can follow my own personal JTH, hosting the Chokeslam Wrestling Debate panel. A regular judge in this. Anybody interested in our just, and I'll see what I can do to get you in to the debate pier.
All righty. Ryan, where can everybody find you on the internet?
Well, people can find me on Facebook with my name Ryan. With my name Ryan Pay. I mean, message me. We can talk pretty much about anything. I mean, you can school me on sports. We can talk wrestling. We can talk, pop culture. Movies, whatever your thoughts are. And also find me on TMG Entertainment. I've had played matches already. I did a chokeslam match with our fearless leader. I had a late teenage fight against our second place finisher, Kevin. And also, probably debuting soon, I'm going to have a podcast pretty much on wrestling. Pretty much it's going to be called Impact Recaps, where I'm pretty much going to be talking about Impact Wrestling for a while. I will, and mainly on Chokeslam or anywhere else, I would talk about WWE, but mainly this podcast is going to focus on Impact Wrestling. It's moving forward, and I might talk a little bit about NXT and AEW, but this podcast is mainly going to focus all on Impact Wrestling. And whenever everyone else, hell, I might pop up on an after hours channel. So keep your eyes open.
All right. Haven, my man, where can we find you on the internet?
You can find me here on YouTube anytime my boy Sue Brath asks me to be a judge on this channel. I've been judging pretty much a couple different matches here, so it's been a cool experience. Everybody that knows me, that knows the Big Bad Booty Daddy, you can find me. You know what channel I host. You know what league I host. Other than that, I had a good time tonight. Matt was a fucking great. I'm sorry, I cussed. Matt was a great host. We had two great competitors here tonight. Ryan was a good timekeeper. So yeah, man, this shit was off the chain. Glad to be here tonight. Both of these guys did well. Thank you for having me.
Right on, homie. Appreciate those strong words. I am Matty G. You can find me on Facebook under Matt Graham. I'm all around these leagues. And Tuesdays, you can find myself and a whole bunch of people talking sweaty things on After Dark. It's right here on this channel. I don't know when this is going to drop, so Matt can cut this out. But coming up this week, I may have a smashingly awesome panelist. So everybody here, I am Matty G. This was the Sports Brawl.